Then a reed like a rod was given to me, saying, Rise, and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and those who worship in it. But leave out the court which is outside of the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the nations, and they will tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months. I will give power to my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 menorahs, standing before the Lord of the earth. And if anyone desires to harm them, fire proceeds out of their mouth and devours their enemies. And if anyone desires to harm them, he must be killed this way. They have the power to shut heaven, that it may not rain during the days of their prophecy, and they have the power over the waters, to turn them into blood, and to strike the earth with every plague as often as they desire. And when they have finished their testimony, the beast that comes up out of the abyss will make war with them, and overcome them, and kill them. And their dead bodies will be in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also their Lord was crucified. Then some of the peoples, tribes, languages, and nations will look at their dead bodies for 3.5 days, and will not allow their dead bodies to be laid in a tomb. And those who dwell on the earth rejoice over them, and they will be glad, and they will give gifts to one another, because of the 2 prophets tormented those who dwell on the earth. Now after the 3.5 days, the breath of life from God entered into them, and they stood on their feet, and great fear fell on those who saw them. I heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, Come up here. They went up into heaven in the cloud, and their enemies saw them. In that day there was a great earthquake, and 1/10 of the city fell, and 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and the rest were terrified and gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe is past. Behold, the 3rd woe comes quickly. The 7th angel sounded. The great voices of heaven followed, saying, The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Messiah, and he will reign forever and ever. And the 24 elders who sit on their thrones before God fell on their faces and worshiped God, saying, We give you thanks, Adonai Elohi Sabaoth, the one who is, the one who was, because you have taken your great power and have begun to reign. The nations were angry, and your wrath came, as did the time for the dead to be judged, and for rewarding your servants, the prophets and the holy ones, and those who fear your name, the small and the great, and to destroy those who destroy the earth. Then the temple of God that is in heaven was opened, and the ark of the covenant was seen in his temple. And there were lightnings, sounds, thunders, and earthquake, and great hail. And a great sign was seen in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And she was with child. She cried out in pain, laboring to give birth. And another sign was seen in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and on his heads 7 crowns. And his tail drew 1/3 of the stars of heaven, and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she gave birth, he might devour her child. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to God and to his throne. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God, that there they may nourish her 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels made war with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels made war, but they did not prevail. And there was no longer a place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, the old serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Then I heard a loud voice, heaven saying, "Now the salvation, the power, and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Messiah has come. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down,